G'day there, everybody. Welcome to this Waves event, Clarity VX Up Close. My name is Michael Pearson Adams. Everybody calls me MPA. And now that you know my full name, you understand why. It's shorter and it's easier to say. With me today is a very good friend of mine and a colleague of mine at Waves, Mr. Shai Fishman. Now, the reason I'm bringing Shai on is because this entire event is about answering questions that you guys have out there in user land, all about Clarity VX and Clarity VX Pro. And we've been collecting some of the best questions from our Waves Discord server, social media, tech support. And today, I'm going to give you some of the best answers and the most important answers straight from the horse's mouth and from Shai himself. So, without further ado, please, everybody, welcome Shai. Shai, how are you, man?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks,
It's
MPA. Hope my mouth is not really horsey so much, but just a little bit.
It's a phrase. I guess it's an Australian phrase. I don't really hear it much over here. So you
Yeah.
are you're here because you're a product manager here at Waves, and you focus on mostly post production, I believe. Is that right? So, but without me
Yeah.
talking, how about you tell us all about you? Give us a rundown on what you do.
Yeah. Well, I came into Waves late in my life. I am what you call a power user, a person who's done anything from music, theater, film scores, of course, post production, commercials, everything. And I used virtually every plugin that Waves has, and other companies as well. So my knowledge as far as the plugins and use cases for all these plugins is really extensive. I think that's what brought me to Waves. And I was very happy to be brought on as a post-production expert, not only because Waves is not really as present as it can be in post-production, but also because I think it's a very interesting subject, interesting category, interesting segment of the market that has a lot of affinity to high-end products with groundbreaking technology, and I'm really all about that. So this gives me great opportunity to work at a company that's really R&D driven. So it's a dream job for somebody like me to be able to make a product when geniuses behind me come up with groundbreaking technology to which with which we can make products.
It's an exciting time, and two of those products are the ones we're here talking about today: Clarity VX and Clarity VX Pro. What's the story behind how they got started? Because this is not only groundbreaking technology, but the results you can get from these tools is beyond wow factor and amazing. It's fast as well. So how did this come about?
So Mail, the owner and founder of Waves, comes to me and says, I want to do a noise reduction plugin that is neural network based. I knew very well about neural networks. I knew the promise, and he wanted to do something more complex, but we just decided to, first of all, see if we can have a crack at a real time, and as you said, fast in terms of intuitiveness and learning curve, yeah, not just a fast plugin to make. In fact, it's the opposite. The more the plugin does for you and the less you need to do with it, the more time you got to develop it. So he says, let's do that. And I was thrilled. I knew I was going into a lot of training, a lot of data, a long road, but it was, as I said before, it's really a fulfilling road to embark on. And not only that, but I come from a background of restoration. During 2009, 2010, I was engaged in a big restoration project, so I knew the market very well, and I know the limitations of traditional noise reduction plugins. And I realized that if we can do two things, three things actually. One, improve on the results. Number two, improve on the workflow. And three, improve on the speed. I'll touch upon those later on, but if we can do all three of those, we really have something that's game-changing, and I think we've done that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the absolutely amazing things to me about when I first used the first one, Clarity VX, was not only how well it worked, but how ridiculously fast it was. I mean, a lot of the tools out there that I'm used to using take a lot more time, a lot more tweakability has to be put in, and it's time consuming. So yeah, really proud of these tools. Okay, so as I said, one of the things that I brought you here for, my friend, is because we do have some questions from the users out there. So are you ready to get into some answers?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Okay. So one of the first ones that I want to talk about is one of the questions that has been coming up a lot is this a tool? Are either of these tools usable in a live streaming or broadcast kind of setting? Now, I kind of nearly know the answer to that, but I'm that's a tease of it. But I wanted to ask you, what's the official answer on that?
Well, of course, yes, and you know what's coming, so you know why yes. But it's important to mention that Clarity has, I mean, noise reduction products in general, and specifically neural network products, are known to have a very high latency. And Clarity, specifically, especially if you compare it to the very little competition it has in that space of neural network noise reduction, has ridiculously low latency of 50 milliseconds, which is less than a couple of frames. And that's a latency that allows you to broadcast real time and have no discrepancy, even if you're using the plugin live, which only enforces the real time aspect of the plugin. And it's important to mention, you briefly touched upon Clarity VX Pro, that these two plugins have not only the same neural network, but also the same latency. And other than the fact that the Pro version has many more features, to be able to get you to deal with more use cases and everything else, the engine is the same. And that's really something that most companies don't do. I mean, when you have a plugin that sells for 10 times the price, usually that comes with a better engine, and Waves doesn't do that. It gives you the same engine and the same latency and same performance. It's the features and the extra abilities that Clarity VX Pro has.
Right.
And as you mentioned before, also, I'll say that, any kind of neural network product is going to be complicated, but noise reduction products and restoration suites in specific, they are notoriously time-consuming. There's a steep learning curve. You're going to have to engage multiple modules to achieve even comparable results to Clarity VX. And you're going to have to destructively process. You're going to have to go out of the DW, so you have no context. And every small region is a process. And if you got to, God forbid, make a change, now you got to do everything again, as opposed to Clarity, which works within your DW, real time. Full automation, you have full context, so you can listen to everything you're doing as you're doing it. It doesn't matter if it's post-production or music, so you have full context. You can tweak as you go. If you got to make a change, you can make it. And if you want to commit, you commit when you're ready to do it, when you're 100% done. So these are really game-changing abilities, which take a lot of time and effort to develop and make it into a reality. So,
yeah.
And I think that's really one of the main reasons why Clarity is such a successful one-stop shop for vocal restoration, because it's the nature of this process really very good for a neural network. If we train it with enough data to be able to do the heavy lifting for the user, as you said, then we're not compromising in quality. In fact, we're improving it while facilitating the best workflow possible for the user and saving the most valuable research of all, which is, of course, time.
So one of my favorite phrases I like to use when I'm training somebody or mentoring somebody is, especially in the audio domain, is you really want to make sure that your gear and your software, like your DAW, are working for you and you're not working for them.
Right.
So, and in a lot of cases, that means making sure that you know your shortcuts, you know your workflow, and everything is good. But one of the things I learned really fast when messing around with Clarity was how much it really does completely and utterly expand on that whole, okay, the software is now working for us big time.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of the guesswork out of coming up with a solution, because it identifies everything so well. Now, in this case here, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to kind of like let you just press play and I'll shut up and then I can explain it? Or do you want me to explain it first? What do you think I should do for these people?
You can just say that you sent me a file and we and I was actually shocked by the state of things in there. But go ahead.
Here's what happened, people. I was doing a live masterclass for on behalf of Waves for a website called Fiverr.com, which is many tasks and jobs and things like that. So, and this whole masterclass was on how to clean up audio, how to clean up audio sessions. Now, I'm currently somewhere in the world in another Airbnb, but when I recorded this audio and video that I sent to Shai, I was in another Airbnb. And ironically, while I was about to do this masterclass, there's construction going on right behind the wall next to me. And I kid you not, in fact, I'm on camera in a second. Different shirt, different room, same microphone, different Airbnb, but the noises were random and inconsistent. And during the live event, nobody knew that I had any construction going on. And I had the plugin that Shai's got on the screen right now actually live on my microphone, not post-processing it, but live, and did an amazing job. And honestly, Shai, it surprised even me.
Yeah, it's really great. Me too as well. I mean, I know what it does, but it's great that you can be in such an environment and nobody would be the wiser. So let me just play what it is. I know it's hard to believe that that's what it was, but that's what it is.
Okay. So this is MPA. G'day there, MPA here from Waves. Now, it was hard to concentrate.
That's fantastic how you wait for a new opportunity. So let's just see right off the bat. I'm just going to take it off bypass. We're at 100% reduction, which means if there's any damage to the voice in terms of reduction, it would be at 100%, right? So I'm just going to take it off bypass, and I'm going to start at 0, and you'll see me going up and see what clarity does in a second.
Okay.
That's done.
So this is MPA. G'day there, MPA here from Waves. Now, I'm currently in an Airbnb and I do have content that I need.
Once again.
Okay. So this is MPA.
And it, by the way, keeps going on and on. I mean, as you keep talking.
An awful lot of noise going on that's random, not consistent at all, and can actually really make me lose my focus. One of the things that we have developed with these new plugins that we have available for you is the ability to be able to make sure.
So I know it's somewhat unbelievable, but every time I hit bypass, it just becomes, it's perfect. There's no problem. This is one of those cases where I would actually go to 100%. And this is something worth mentioning. People always ask me, people who know noise reduction, they're really shy about going all the way to 100%, no pun intended, but Shai isn't shy about going to 100%. And this plugin allows you to do that. Even at very, very high maximum reduction amounts, you're not going to get those artifacts that you get with other noise reduction plugins. If you want to get rid of the noise, you can completely.
Yeah, I ran this plugin full tilt on that live event, and even though I could hear it, and I'd kind of intentionally pause and make it look like I was doing dramatic pauses every now and again, but those pauses were actually while I was trying to readjust when somebody else jackhammered on the wall behind me. It was kind of crazy. So there's the answer to the first question. Can you use this real time? Yes, you can. There's about a frame and a half of difference, but from my experience, I didn't visually see anything, and everything was real time. And that's right, Shai, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. And I'll say one more thing about real time. That's really important. It's coming to me now, but as you know, where I come from and the way I'm working with the DW, that's not really something I'm worried about because I usually get material that needs processing after the fact. However, if you think about yourself in this scenario, sitting there, you can adjust yourself and the EQ that you may apply pre-noise reduction to go with your noise. You have this power. Using this plugin, you can actually get a view to the future to see what this plugin is going to do given your present noise. And you can adjust your distance from the microphone if you want to put some limiting pre or EQ. So in essence, if this noise resides on, 500 hertz, and you don't really care about 500 hertz so much, you can freely reduce a little bit of 500 hertz and boost another frequency for yourself, realizing and helping the plugin. Not that it really needs the help, but you can tweak the plugin as you have that real-time power So the plugin works with you even before you need it. You know what I mean? You need it
That's
usually
cool.
after the recording, but here you can actually do it with the recording together. That's a really strong thing.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. Another question that has come up quite a lot is Clarity VX just for vocals, or is it for other instruments too? One person specifically asked if this can be used to kind of like remove acapellas from music, etc. So I'm not sure.
Right.
It's like this is specifically a vocal plugin from my perspective, but you're the guy who runs it, so you answer.
Yeah. Well, it's of course it's a vocal plugin. It's Clarity VX, stands for vocals. It's capable of distinguishing between voiced and unvoiced elements, and naturally, instruments are considered non-voice by the neural network. So it'll treat them as ambience or noise. So trying to remove noise from instruments in this case is like trying to remove noise from noise. No, separate one noise can from another. So it's not going to do well at all on removing noise from anything other than voice. However, as far as creating acapellas, that's an interesting concept, because although it wasn't the purpose of this plugin by design, as long as the instrumentation within the track doesn't have too many shared frequencies with the vocals, it may do a good job at that. The reason we didn't train the neural network to separate instruments to begin with is because there's an inevitable conflict between vocals and other sonically similar elements in a recording, and those similarities are almost surely going to generate artifacts when you're trying to separate the vocals. And that goes against rule number one of this plugin, which is do no harm, keep the vocals at all cost.
Right.
So I'm kind of okay with the false positive. So I'm kind of okay with the plugin identifying something that isn't vocal as a vocal, as long as it doesn't take away from the vocals. I don't want to risk any degradation to the residual vocals if I do that. So to the extent that you're able to create an acapella from a track, it's great. It's kind of a wonderful mistake or a lucky occurrence, and it's great. And actually, I have an example for you that shows that. But keep in mind that this example has exactly what I described before. Not too many shared frequencies between the acapella and the instrumental. It's mostly rhythmic, drums, percussion, and a rap. Although it's a really harsh situation where the guy is actually standing in a room with the band. So it's kind of amazing that we're able to do that. But as I said,
I kind of got the question wrong, really. I guess I'm sorry, guys out there, but I guess I should have clarified that what this person actually meant was, can they remove the music from an acapella?
Right,
that's
right.
So Shai worked it out, but yeah.
Well, he was okay by saying, "Can I create an acapella?" That's really a common need. And again, the real time aspect of it is really great because you can design the acapella. Think about it as not only creating acapellas, but also changing the mix.
Right.
Because I'm going to talk about Clarity VX Pro later on, but Clarity VX Pro has the other side of the knob where you're able to actually reduce the vocals and stay with the playback only. So now you have the ability to tweak exactly how much do you want the acapella. You want it louder, you want less playback, you want more. Gives you a lot of opportunities, the real-time aspect. But
okay,
let me just play it for you so you see. Yeah. So this is the actual file.
Yeah, hey, you know, then we coming straight to, yeah, we are. Yo, man, check it out. This is a hot time.
He's there in the room, right? I'm just going to take it off bypass.
But check this, since I'm real, these are my times. So I grew up in the land of the beach.
As simple as that.
Music, you know that my beat's good. And I got the attitude of an alpha dog. Yeah, I got the altitude of an alpha dog.
Right?
Do you hear me? Do you hear what I'm saying, man?
And again, maybe I want it. Maybe I want the instrument. I don't think I do, but starting from zero, I can decide how much do I want to reduce the playback. Now it becomes a mixing tool. So
yeah, hey, you know, then we coming straight to, yeah, we are. Yo, man, check it out. This is a hot time. Scratch that matter of fact. She's a fly time.
Maybe that's good
I'm a
for you.
Time. But check this, since I'm real, these are my times. So I grew up in the land of the beach.
All the way to 100.
Music, you know,
I haven't tried it on anything like this yet. This is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a wonderful mistake. It's not by design. It's just a how do you say, a residual outcome to the fact that the neural network has trained on non-vocal elements, and obviously drums are non-vocal. There's no problem there.
Right. Okay, so next question. We have a few variations of this question, but the question pretty much is, can I record vocals in an untreated room and then fix it with clarity? Now, from my perspective, any single way that I've seen this question come in, the first answer I always like to give is you want to record it, obviously, the best possible scenario and situation room-wise that you can, because it's much better to have a good audio section than to try and fix things in the mix. But
Of course.
let's open this up a bit, Ken. I mean, what's the possibilities on that answer?
Well, the short answer is yes, you can. As you said,
Hey.
you shouldn't, but you definitely can. And if you find yourself in a position where you have no choice, most noises are not going to be an issue for clarity, as you can probably already realize. However, if it's full-blown music in the background, or you have very loud secondary speech going on, that may be a problem because, as I said before, when the noise or ambience, they share frequencies with the element you're trying to keep, that's where you may have issues. So noises are not a problem, and severe noises, you'll hear in a second, are no issue. You got to be mindful of what kind of untreated room you're in. Also, important to mention, Clarity VX is not a de-reverb plugin. It's not designed to reduce or remove reflections from a recording. So, I'm going to use Broad 2, which is a tougher neural network, to show how it does that. And that network actually can dry up a room to an extent because, we designed the network to keep room sounds. Room sounds are okay, especially if you're talking about post-production scenarios where the space counts for a lot. So, and although, by the way, reflections are actually an artifact of your voice, and this plugin is designed to keep voice. So, I'm going to keep the reflections if I can. However, as I said, Broad 2 is a harsher, tougher neural network, and it can dry up a room. So this example that I'm going to play for you is, I don't know how this guy, how it happened, but it was sent to us, and the guy was apparently in some kind of a hall, an open hall. It's not even a room, it's an open hall. And he's got some ceilings next to him, and there's weather from outside. He's really outside. He's just under a covered hall. You can really obviously hear the weather next to him, and you'll hear how Clarity treats the noise no problem, and it actually dries up enough of the unwanted reflections that occur due to the environment that he was in when he was singing the song. So as before, let me do it before. So this is what it was, believe it or not.
Stick my head in a square ink tree, trying so hard to be free.
You can really hear.
I just want visuals with this. It's like I want to see what kind of what is this scenario that he did?
Exactly. I mean, when you're recording outside like that, I bet you this is not a take to keep. However, have a listen. It could almost be a take to keep.
Stick my head in a square ink tree, trying so hard to be free.
Wow.
It's all right.
That's clean.
Okay, so let's take that a bit further. Now, if we add in the fact that you mentioned earlier on that you can use EQ to help the plugin work out what to take, what's there and how to deal with it, then from my perspective as a music producer guy, I can totally use that vocal. It's like I'd add a bit of R bass after it, maybe, add a bit of high mids, and I could use that. That's brilliant.
Definitely you can. Definitely you can. In fact, let me show you something else. This is you're hitting the nail on the head with this one. This is another example where we have somebody recording outside. She had a Zoom device, this I know, and there's some stereo issue. She's off center and everything sounds phasey. So if you look here, the width is set to 0. So basically I'm outputting mono, which is anyways what I want because it's a single voice. And I'm on double mode, which means the neural network is analyzing the left and right independently. It's given me 2 streams of clean data, which then I'm summing into mono. So in a sense, what starts out as a off-center, dirty, unstable vocal comes out to a clean monophonic vocal, which is exactly what you want. So I'll do it before and after, and then I'll show you how even this horrible use case can actually become a usable take. I'm not advocating you should do that, record outside, but it's doable. So have a listen first of all. This is the actual take.
Oh.
It's in my native language of Hebrew. So that's, come on. So let's just take it, bring clarity in. I'm summing to mono with 100 to mono, and she's dry. Let me put some EQ on her. Simple EQ, Q10. Boom. Now the brightness is back, but the noise isn't. And some reverb. Enjoy yourself. Again, I'm not advocating for this, but we started here.
Yeah, but if I was a producer and she was an artist I was working with, man, that's amazing. And she did that recording and sent it to me, then that would give me something that I could work with as a rough take easily.
Definitely.
If not, and actually work with it. So
definitely.
Wow.
Definitely. If she had an idea and she's in this scenario, starting here, I'll do it again just for wow factor. If she started here and gave me this, and I can easily make it into this. That's crazy. That's crazy.
So yeah, one of those things that I love about this plugin is the fact that that width control can have such a strong impact on how things are fixed. We're going to get into a couple of questions about the technology in a minute, but how does this AI that we're using for Clarity VX and Clarity VX Pro, how does it differ from other noise reduction solutions that are out there?
Well, okay. So first of all, it's important to understand that a neural network is a black box of sorts, meaning you can't teach it how to reduce more noise than it does, or to change its process, or consider different things. It's nothing you can do after training it. So to the extent that it learns and adapts as it goes, its adaptiveness and abilities are instilled via training. And by us knowing when is the right moment to stop the training, when the network starts to converge and starts degrading its results. That happens, by the way. So of course we can later alter the statistics and post-training and essentially biasing the decisions the network will make after training, which will make for better results. Which, by the way, this was my last 3-4 months of my life, biasing the neural network to make it the best it can be.
I'm sorry. Hold up for a second. When you say biasing, sure. What does that mean? For the Australians in the room, it's like give me some clarification. Hey, see what I did there?
Sure.
Explain that a bit.
So neural networks work with a set of weights and biases. Weights are considerations the network takes. What goes into the network. Biases is either the likelihood or consideration or classifying decision the network is making is for what to do at any given point. So what we can do as far as to make the network better is to give it more information. The more the network knows what is a voice, what isn't a voice, the more it's going to be able to distinguish between them. That's simple enough. That's fine. But as I said before, there is a point where the network will start degrading its result. It's too much. It's eating too much at a buffet. So once the network has reached results that are satisfactory to us, we have what's called a statistic file. I'm not going to go into the whole technology, but this statistic file, I'm able to skew it. It's kind of like applying an EQ, only it's applying an EQ on the decisions the network is making per frequency or per kinds of voice or per kinds of noise. And not only that, but I can later on take the same training that I had and tell the network, so you want to give a little bit more focus to these kind of voices or these kind of noises, in reality making it better equipped to treat specific noise or specific voices better, or to salvage voices better. Not only that, but if you're looking at forensic applications, the grand future, we can actually make a network serve a specific voice. So I can customize a network that works on you, and either not on anyone else or only just better for you alone. It's really unbelievable.
I guess one of the things that blows my mind about that is, I mean, obviously we've just the vocal cords have a specific kind of usually a specific frequency range and timbre to them, but but different languages and the way different people speak around the world changes dramatically from language to language.
True.
So, I mean, this effectively means that Clarity VX and Clarity VX Pro will work for any human voice speaking any language. Am I right?
Absolutely, and don't think for a second that we didn't encounter issues in the beginning when languages that the network didn't see, like German, any kind of African languages, of course, Hebrew, Arabic, which are very throaty, and that the network, rightfully, as far as it's concerned, said, well, this sound I don't know, and if it just so happens that at a certain moment my voice is giving you a sound that it doesn't know, and that sound is raspy or I have a hoarse throat, there should be no reason the network wouldn't say, well, this is not a voice and this I'm not going to keep. Right. Even if there's no noise present. Network is designed to identify either or, right? So it's always looking for voice and noise, which is why we have to be extensive in terms of the data, and also making sure we're skewing it just right to focus it on whatever it needs to focus. It calls for our best knowledge and experience in terms of teaching. It calls for a lot of time. And, as I said, we don't have a lot to do in terms of what it does, but once it's trained, we can optimize it very well.
Give me a guesstimate. I'm not asking for a number, but give me a guesstimate. How many pieces of audio did we feed into your neural networks to get to this point?
I know the answer. I am not going to say, but
give me a
I
rough.
know the answer. Suffice to say, in the millions.
Wow. Okay.
And not only that, but suffice to say that I've listened personally to easily 500,000 of these files.
Wow.
Let me say one more thing that I think is important. I was getting to this point as far as neural networks. One of the biggest advantages neural network has over a traditional noise reduction plugin is that if you remember, these old school noise reduction plugins gave you a chance to teach the plugin what is a noise, right? So if you had a clean sample of the noise, you can introduce it, and then it does good work cleaning that noise. However, that noise is one. What happens if that noise is not momentary or stationary? Like it's bells, whistle, horns, car, planes go by, and either you don't have that noise by itself because there's speech on it, right? Or you don't have enough of it by itself, or it's just ever changing. So there's no way for you to teach that stupid plugin how to deal with that noise when it's not momentary. What are you going to do then?
Well,
so
this goes back to the first example as well. It's like the first example was me on camera with noise that was ridiculously random. Actually, maybe it wasn't. Maybe the construction people were waiting for me to talk into a microphone before they, because it certainly felt that way. But there's no way I could have known ahead of time what noise was going to come up next, what tool, and they were all completely different. So this is amazing. Okay, so back to the plugin. So let's talk for a second. Which I just asked you about the neural networks. I've seen you mess with two sections of Clarity VX called Broad 1 and Broad 2. Can you? And now I'm assuming that those are two completely different neural networks, but I want you to give us the layman's answer on that. How are they differ?
Sure. So first of all, keep in mind and have a look that we have a nice tooltip there, and that tooltip serves you much more on the big plugin where you have so many features. I've made it so it's not only accessible, but also it tells you what the control does, as opposed to just give you a value. So, for all intents and purposes, you may not even need the manual, which is a big thing to say for a plugin that's so elaborate. So already you can read that Broad 1 is better equipped at keeping voice detail and secondary speech, and Broad 2 is going to be better for severe ambience and mostly main voice, close mic. But it goes a little bit deeper than that, because if you think about the two neural networks, let's say I can have a conversation with the two networks. So Broad 1 is my baby, and I told it, listen, at all cost, keep the voice. No matter what you do, keep the voice. Even if you go ahead and remove a little bit less of an ambience, that's fine. Don't damage the voice, right? Broad 2 is designed differently. This one I told, you're Mr. T, so you're going to remove all the noise. If you gotta kill some people on the way, do it, but remove as much noise as you can. Again, I'm not saying you're going to damage the voice, but as I have the luxury of giving you two neural networks, I can tell you, first of all, Broad 2 is going to first of all reduce the noise, and if it needs to peel away a little bit of frequencies from the residual voice to get it done perfectly, it'll do it. And another thing that's important that I read it from the tooltip is the secondary voices. Secondary voices may be somebody speaking behind me, 10 feet away from me, or 17 people in a cafe, shop, or a classroom, whatever. Neural network 1, broad 1, to the best of its ability, tries to keep those secondary voices to a reasonable extent, where they're close enough for it to be deemed important, to be deemed something to be kept, right? So, and that's also why it keeps the reflections. If you think about secondary voices, they're far away from the microphone. They also sound a little bit like reflection. That's why broad 1 will keep more of the reflection, and broad 2 will remove the secondary voices together with whatever reflections it has to remove if the noise floor is high enough to constitute, being higher than whatever reflections it tries to keep. It's complex, but
it's
as I said,
very
layman
complex.
terms,
It's
yeah.
like, yeah. I asked for layman's terms. My glasses are steaming up.
No, but layman's terms is 1 keeps the voice, 2 reduces the noise. 1 keeps the secondary speech, 2 eliminates secondary speech.
Do you have an example? Do you have an example?
Why not?
Why not?
Let me play 2 things for you. I think I have a good example that shows why you need broad 2 and why, what kind of use cases broad 2 is going to come in handy. So we have here, somebody sent me a construction worker who's an amazing singer singing at the construction site. So somebody took it's a stereophonic recording, so it looks monophonic. So I think it's a mono recording. Somebody held a mic or a cell phone. The guy is an amazing singer, but the noise, come on. And again, I'm not advocating making this into a take, but have a listen to broad 2. What it can do as far as removing noise. I'm not saying the voice is going to be kept perfect, but have a listen to how good it does what it does. So first of all, that's the actual file.
Divided, we stand. Indicted,
you got everything going on there. Construction, traffic. Amazing singer.
Misguided.
Have a listen.
We run into black holes.
Okay, now I feel like an infomercial because my face just dropped. Can you go through that again? That's ridiculous.
Sure. That's ridiculous, right? That's crazy that it knows how is it, and you have horns there and traffic and people talking secondary speech. It's crazy. The network says, well, I'm going to reduce all of that and I'm going to keep whatever it is, and it does that to a very good extent. Again, clean.
We stand indicted. We fall.
Have a look here, the reduction
Misguided.
in pink. Look how much is being reduced. This is crazy.
Into
here. So,
So broad 2 takes out everything that it doesn't think is vocal, and sometimes it might be a bit brutal about it. What about broad 1?
Well, broad 1 would keep the voices that are there. It would first of all pay attention to whatever voice it's trying to maintain, and if it has to make a difficult choice between removing some noise that shares frequencies with whatever voice it's trying to keep, it may, in some cases, decide to keep a little bit of what we call noise there. It's usually going to be masked. You're not going to know it, but it's going to do it for the benefit of not hurting the voice. And by the way, we're going to 100% all the time. All these examples, you talk to anybody in post-production, nobody goes to 100%. Even if you have a recording like this that you want to put, over an instrumental, you don't have to go to 100. The less you're going to reduce, the less artifacts you have, the less the network is working, in a sense.
Right.
So we're really showing the worst case scenario as far as potential damage to the residual voice. But you're giving me a good segue here. Remember, I said something about secondary speeches being kept. Here's a great example of that. I'm going to switch back to single mode because this is a monophonic file here, and we have a lady who's recording she's in a naval base or something like that. So the window is closed, obviously, but the PA is coming in really loud to the point where it's penetrating. And I guess that whatever scenario she's in, she can't control when the PA is on. So it happened to be, bled into a take. And it's a really good example of how broad 2 is able to remove the secondary speech and the noise, but keep her voice perfectly. And this one I actually can make into a usable take. So here it is without anything.
When you tell me that you love me, I'm not sure that
That's a loud secondary speech.
It really is. It's audible and understandable.
Understand
Right.
me.
So simply,
I don't need understanding.
that's done.
I just need a man to make me cry.
And now a little bit of EQ as we did before. Some reverb.
Don't believe me, I'll destroy
Again, I'm not saying I would use it as a take, but come
you
on.
will kill me.
Some things from here you could definitely salvage and make into a take if she gave, something she really wanted to keep. But just goes to show you the power of a neural network. How are you going to teach a neural network, a noise reduction plugin, what is a secondary speech that keeps talking in the background to the extent where you can actually understand what's being said? This is really, cutting edge ability to be able to tell a neural network, hey, this is secondary and this is main voice. I'll play it one more time here.
Understand me, I don't need understanding. I just need a man.
Have a look here, the reduction.
Make me cry.
See the secondary speech here, competing and being removed as she's being kept.
Don't believe
I think one of the things that blows my mind about this isn't the fact that it actually does it, but the fact that it does it and manages to show you real time exactly what's being taken out in color code, to the point that you can see it happening real time and it's still not blowing up our computers.
Yeah. Well, it's important to say this is I have to say it, and this is something that we've heard from people. This is a heavy plugin. This is a really heavy plugin, and the reason it's a heavy plugin is because it does a lot of heavy lifting. A race car eats a lot of gas. Okay, so. And although you can work in two modes, when you're working with single mode, you're only consuming about 30% of your CPU, depending on the computer. I have no problem running 4 or 5 instances, so you should be fine running 1, 2 instances, especially if it's on a reassigned bus and you're sending stuff to it. No reason to run a noise reduction plugin on a 7.1 bus or any kind of bus that's bigger than stereo. So you should be fine. And when you work in double modes, meaning you're employing 2 neural networks for left and right, you may get up to close to 50% CPU. There's nothing we can do about it. We're working on it hard. I'll just say that this is a good compromise to make here. In this case, you want performance. And performance requires a deep network that processes a lot of information, and a network that's seen not only a lot of information, but has been trained on different SNRs, signal-to-noise ratios. The more signal-to-noise ratios the network has seen allows it to perform well. A network that wasn't trained on this kind of construction site noise would never be able to reduce it, would be able to reduce it to an extent, but it would never be able to remove it to this extent of being clean completely without being trained on these SNRs from really low to really high.
So this means then that we can actually educate this AI and continually update these plugins with new sounds and new scenarios as we come across them?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
definitely.
wow.
We shot for the moon. We went for a broad noise reduction plugin that's able to deal with any kind of noise. How are you going to train a network to learn every kind of noise? That's impossible. But
I am actually one of the things I love about the reaction online and with users to this is I've seen some crazy videos of people putting some crazy sounds through this and finding that plugin 1 uses 0. It's like the plugin has beat him. So my question is then, we've talked a bit about the big brother to this. What is the main difference between Clarity VX and Clarity VX Pro?
Okay, so I'm going to show it as well. So first of all, I should say, as I said, that's a really important point to make. Waves has given Clarity VX the same abilities of Clarity VX Pro. That's saying something. If you look at, I'm not going to mention other companies by name, but most other companies that have products at different tiers and pro levels and entry levels, usually it speaks to the performance as well. Here, that isn't the case. So see here you have broad 1 and broad 2. Here you also have broad 1, broad 2. You also have broad 1 HF, which is really an iteration of broad 1 that keeps more high frequencies. But to the extent that you're using broad 1 and broad 2, and you take the knob to the right, you're going to get the same results exactly. Okay, that's important to mention. Of course, it's bigger. Of course, it has a dark and light theme. I'll just show the big one for a second, so you have a good representation of what's going on. The FFT that I showed before in small sizes here, right here. 1 second. This FFT here is represented here, of course, much bigger. So in pink, we're talking about the residual sound. I'll mute it just, I'll do this 1 second, so we don't have to hear it, but we can talk over it. So in pink is what's being kept, in gray is what's being reduced. I can go to the left, and now I'm keeping the noise and reducing the voice, as you can clearly see by the frequencies being removed. Broad 1, broad 2, that's a reset network. We're not going to go into it right now. Same width as before. And the bonanza of this plugin is that you have, 1 second, let me play some information through it. Okay, once you click on the advanced features, now you have the ability not only to reduce noise with 4 different bands, but you can solo every band, bypass every band, listen to only the delta, which is the reduction per band, and adjust the, it's not even volume, it's what we call pure gain, which means how much volume, how much gain you want to add post-noise reduction only to this band here with no bleed, no Q. It's basically an infinity Q. That's something you can never on an EQ, and you take this, make it into a bell curve. Even the wider bell curves, the curve you want, you're always going to bleed a lot to the next bands. Here, not. Here, it doesn't happen. When you go up here, you're only amplifying frequencies here, and you can actually effectively eliminate if you go to minus infinity. And more than anything, you have individual control over the noise reduction per band. So if, for example, you have a lot of hum coming in here, very little hiss, then what you'd be doing is 100%, 100%, and then maybe 50% reduction or maybe 20% reduction. And then you can offset with the main knob. And of course, we have a smart VCA, which allows you to control all the lines together, and it keeps your previous value. So basically goes by in relation, by percentage, and not by nominal amount. And we have a gate here. This is really a lot of extra features that allow you to literally get much better results, not because of the neural network engine, but because of these very smart, very powerful advanced features that the big guy has.
What's the going to the left? What's the reflections knob for? I know you said that there's no de-verbing and we're not doing de-verbing. However, let's make sure that people understand the difference between de-verbing and reflections.
That's a great question. I thank you for asking it. So imagine for a second that the noise you're trying to remove is, in fact, this is an example I can show later on of, we have an example of a Kennedy speech where the person is speaking in a reverberant space. Could be outside, could be a room, doesn't matter. That space you want to keep. However, you're using broad 1, broad 2, and the reflections get lost along the way because you're at relatively high reduction amounts. Reflection, basically what it does scientifically is tells the network to decrease the release of its process per band by a certain amount. Here it's in milliseconds. So I'm basically telling the neural network, listen, when you stop identifying voice, when the lead voice has stopped talking, and now the reflections come in, ease out your process to save, not to recreate, but to save those existing reflections. Now, of course, it comes at a price, because as you're fading out the process of the neural network, you're gradually getting some noise back. But the nice thing about that is that you're gradually getting more and more, and the more you're getting noise, the less voice you have because reflection died down. So at the beginning of the reflection, you're easing out a little bit of the process. So right. in this case, if I go to 200, it takes the neural network 200 milliseconds to ease out the process from totally removing the noise to not removing noise at all. I also
noticed in the tooltip that you made a specific mention of you're not adding reverb to
that's really important, because people think of reflections as a trick to add reverb. That's not what we're doing. If you want to add reverb, by all means, put the reflections at 0, lose the reflections, and add your own reverb. But that gives you the actual space you're in, and it's a very valuable thing, which took us a long time to achieve also.
One thing I want to add in, I mean, you're the expert on these plugins. You created them. But one thing I found when I was going back to the original example, I actually found that the latency on Clarity VX and the latency on Clarity VX Pro were pretty much the same. So could you use either of them live?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go, people. You heard it from the man himself.
You know what? Let me say something else here. That's really important to me. I know there's a price difference between those plugins. It doesn't matter if you're a podcaster, gamer, you do wedding videos, or you're a high-end post-production engineer. What kind of price tag do you put on a plugin that gives you 10% better performance? Not even always, but when you need it the most. Yeah. If I'm salvaging my grandma's recording and this plugin, because of extra features, gives me better results, or if I'm broadcasting myself, for the price tag that Waves puts on these plugins that I think are incredibly reasonable, it's a no-brainer in my opinion, which is why I was happy to push and they agreed to give the same abilities, the same engine for the small plugin. We didn't set out to make a small plugin. We set out to make one plugin. I was happy to make a smaller plugin that's more affordable because not everybody needs those advanced features. But if those advanced features, you need them, and there's many reasons why you would need those advanced features, I think the price tag is a no-brainer.
I think it is too, because there are some plugins that are a luxury, and then there are some plugins I look at and go, just using this once or twice is going to pay for itself back a couple of times over. Exactly. And this is one of those tools. I work for the company and I bought it for myself, so I had a separate license. So, guys, hopefully this has been a Shai. I don't know if you've had fun, but I've had fun. Those are most of the questions that we have that come in different wording about Clarity VX, which is why we want to do this little event, Clarity VX Up Close. The bonus was that you also got to hear from the man himself about why we created these plugins and learn a bit about what the difference is between that jump between Clarity VX and Clarity VX Pro. Keep your questions coming in. Keep your curiosity coming in. Please stay creative, stay safe. Shai, thank you so much for joining me on this little shindig.
Thank you, my friend.
Everybody out there, thanks for watching. MPA out.